Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, and thanks for joining us today in person to reflect on a topic that is as timely as they come. But first, let me introduce myself. My name is Bernadette Kamm-Leitner. I'm a Vice Rector for Research and Third Mission here at Vienna, and it's my pleasure to welcome you on behalf of the Rectorate of this university. And it's a pleasure because I'm welcoming you to a very special edition of the WU Matters WU Talk series. I say special because we are doing something that I don't think we've ever done before, and that's watch a movie on top of having an expert panel discussion. WU Matters is an event series that is part of our commitment to the third pillar of academic work, the third mission. Now, third mission, I know, is not a term everybody is familiar with. Hands up if you've heard about the third mission of universities before. Well, a few. The WU people, please should know this. But it's what we as universities are there for. We are there for society. There's two main pillars that everybody knows: research and teaching. And then there's the third pillar, the third mission. In short, it's kind of like something that we do ideally on top of, but not just on top of, in synergy with the other two pillars, and that's acting and interacting with society, so that there's an actual benefit of universities for society. And events like these definitely count towards that. And we often also focus on topics that occupy many a mind, and that are of central importance to the future of businesses, of economies, and even, as today's title suggests, humanity. I don't know about you, but there's barely a day in which I don't encounter AI in one shape or another. Learning about new ways to use it, learning about pitfalls, etc., figuring out something new myself, and also thinking that, okay, how is this affecting all of us as a university, us as a society? AI, artificial intelligence, is complex, and it's nearly everywhere. This morning, I had the pleasure of meeting the heads of the research institutes and competence centers of WU. And one of the things we did is we tried to find out what are parallels in what we are doing and how we approach things. And it was interesting that I hadn't expected it in this context, that one of the first things that popped up as an underlying threat is AI. From intricate IT solutions to its adoption and potential in the care for the elderly, it's everywhere. It touches on countless aspects of the economy and of human existence. And I'm extremely looking forward to learning more about it today. And I'm thrilled that we have stellar expertise on this very topic right here at WU. Today's program has been curated by the Department of Information Systems and Operations Management, and its head of department, Professor Axel Polleres, will moderate today's panel discussion. Thanks for that. And Professor Sarah Spiekermann is responsible for this very unique input we have today. Sarah did what rarely a professor manages to do. She teamed up with Oliver Dürr from the University of Fribourg, and they initiated a movie in which scholars from across the world and different disciplines share their insights on the traces AI may leave on us as humanity. And you'll learn more about it in a moment. This clearly is third mission. And third mission only works via engagement, participation, and dialogue. And I thus need to thank all of those that made that engagement, participation, and dialogue possible today. Thank you, Sarah, Axel, your teams, and the stellar panelists, which will be introduced to you later on. And a big thank you also to those of you behind the scenes that make an event like this possible. And of course, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being here. Without you, this would be entirely pointless. There is no way AI can replace you as an audience. So on behalf of WU Vienna, I wish you all an enlightening and inspiring evening. Glad you are here. Thank you. Sarah, the stage is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much for so many of you signing up for coming and watching our film. I just want to say a few words about the history of the film that you are going to. So in 2014, I started a super endeavor. I wanted to write a student textbook about ethical IT innovation. And I thought, well, if I have to write about innovation and the future, and I'm an information systems scholar, so I was very enthusiastic about the future. And I said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to study Ray Kurzweil. Who has ever heard about Ray Kurzweil? Yeah, quite a few people. Well, this is considered to be the futurist of our time, based in Silicon Valley, product director at Google. And I said, wow, as a small little WU professor, I have to look what the good guys out there in Silicon Valley think. And so I went and read his book. It's called The Singularity is Near, and it was a very brutal moment of truth for me. Because in this book, he writes about, well, humans are so inefficient, their bodies are just mosh, they're just water, they're suboptimal. We are creatures that have to, in the face of technology and AI, need to upgrade, need to embed computer systems into our bodies. I just want to read one quote of his book. He writes, uploading a human brain means scanning all its salient details and then reinstantiating those details into a more suitable, powerful computational substrate. Or one day, if we have the option of destroying the brain we are scanning, then at dramatically higher resolution rates. Or he speaks about the heart, and I think this was the quote that really hurt me physically when he wrote, although artificial hearts are beginning to be feasible replacements, a more effective approach will be to get rid of the heart altogether. Now, this heralded person, future thinker, Google director, charges $100,000 for every talk he's giving. I had, ladies and gentlemen, really the impression that there is something wrong going on amongst those considered leaders, those considered role models, those people of power. And that was 2014, and I decided to work against them. And not only against them, but also to work on alternatives. And this was the first moment of this film. After that, I went on, tracked transhumanistic movements, looked at the many singularities and work groups they created around the world, looked at their dynamics, studied their books, and tried to deconstruct them. To the point where we took the famous Harari. Who has the book Homo Deus ever seen, read, heard about? Homo Deus by Harari and other very famous booksellers who write that they love Kurzweil in their books that are sold 69 million times worldwide. People who are advising the board, the World Economic Forum, and so on. So Harari was one person that I traced down, and we did students' projects and looked into his book, looked into his messages, made media studies on his perspective of the future. That was the next step. And when the Harari study was done, by chance, I met Oliver Dürr, who is going to guide us through this film tonight. And Oliver is heading a research center at the University of Fribourg, and he did his habilitation on transhumanism, also this kind of strange replacement ideology that is reigning in Silicon Valley. And we talked and we said, you know what? We are going to make a film. And you know what? This film that you're going to see had 0 budget. Consider this when you watch the film. When you see the police scenes in this film, it was literally the local police in the village, in the Swiss village that Oliver is living in. And they were sharing the equipment, and they were with 20, 30 people filming for 0 money, this film. So this film does not only hold an intellectual critique of our time, as well as at the end a vision for a better future, but it also shows that we can do very creative, high-quality projects like films with 0 budget. We just need people, creativity, energy, and spirit. And then we can move something. Right now, we negotiate with Netflix, with Arte. The film is already sold to the Swiss National Swiss National Station, and over 50 NGOs have shown this film this year in 20 different countries, every single one of them doing events like this one. Thousands of people have discussed this film for 0 budget. I really hope you like it. Thank you.
Artificial intelligence will one day take away the need to work.
The AI will be able to do everything. No job is needed.
Welcome to the future. A technological wonderland in which anything is possible.
Vaping can harm your bodily and mental health.
The old world has become obsolete, and with it, most human beings.
Vaping can harm your bodily and mental health.
Those who are not part of the new elite of the super wealthy are left fighting for scarce resources. Everything that can be automated has been automated, and thus artificial intelligence has made most people both free and useless.
Hi, I am your autonomous surveillance drone, Virgil. Thank you for your service. I will take it from here.
This is what many fear is coming. But recently, these strange views have become mainstream.
We are probably one of the last generations of Homo sapiens.
The end of humanity, ushered in not by pandemic, nuclear war or climate change, but by the machines.
Let's look at AI, because specifically the risk that could lead to the extinction of humans.
All of this is headed towards a post-human paradigm on planet Earth.
What's freaking people out is that the warning comes from the scientists, engineers and CEOs who are creating AI themselves.
The percentage of intelligence that is not human is increasing. And eventually, we will represent a very small percentage of intelligence.
Influential people anticipate the end of humanity as we know it. They see humans as flawed biological machines that more efficient digital machines will simply overcome. Such ideas have reached the world stage. Bloggers, YouTubers, artists, as well as academics, politicians, and CEOs of powerful companies, all singing from the same hymn sheet.
AI is likely to be the best or worst thing to happen to humanity.
I think the danger of AI is much greater than the danger of nuclear warheads, by a lot.
The human story could end prematurely. That might mean literal extinction.
I think for our way of life, as we know it, it's game over.
We as a species are not really sophisticated enough and mature enough to handle these technologies.
I think we're in the transhuman era, where the transhumanist era is about a human in transition to becoming something other.
You cannot catch up with the new technologies. You have to be a front runner, because otherwise you will be on the losing outside.
They claim that we are reaching a crossroads, faced with the choice between two scenarios: either to perish or to transcend our human nature. Either we become obsolete or we become transhuman.
We still have to wait. Okay. I think we had to wait until the screen is fully up. Well, great. It's great to see so many people here. Thanks a lot for joining us. Thanks for the movie. I'd like to welcome, of course, all our guests and the students, and of course our panelists that we have on stage for this movie, which is Oliver Dürr, co-producer of the movie and co-writer and also narrator in the movie, and also pursuing his habilitation at the University of Fribourg, as we heard before, and in the area of hermeneutics and religion science. Then we have on the panel my colleague Stefan Woltran from TU Vienna, who is working in the area of symbolic artificial intelligence. He's also the co-director of the Center for AI and Machine Learning at TU. A URI fellow, so the European Association of AI, and a member of the board of the Austrian Society of Artificial Intelligence. And we have my dear colleague Sarah Spiekermann from our Department of Information Systems and Operations Management, who's the head of the Institute of Information Systems and Society in our department, and an expert for digital ethics and value-based engineering, where she contributed to international standards as well, and methodologies to human and value-centric systems. So, well, maybe as an introduction round to this discussion, and I hope there is many questions and also inputs from the audience. We heard that this is about engagement and dialogue because it's third mission. So I could ask, I mean, the one question that I was asking myself when listening to the movie is, so as we're still in the driver's seat, how can we do better? But maybe that would be too simple if I just asked that. So I wanted to ask each of you for a short opening statement that maybe helps also people understand where you're coming from. I would like to start with Oliver Dürr. So we see, we always have a lot of students also in these WU Metas talks, and we teach here from a probably different perspective, right? We have something called digital economy. It's a master program where we teach information systems, and we mainly focus on economical and business aspects, but also technical aspects, of course also societal aspects. But maybe you can explain our students what the field of hermeneutics is and how your academic research and habilitation relates to this movie, or in other words, what drives an academic to do such a movie or a documentary?
Yeah. Thank you very much for the question. Thank you for having me, for hosting us here with the film. I mean, I come from the humanities. I think what the film has shown, and this is what I'm also interested in my research, and part of this was science communication, was to say the kinds of questions that we're asking ourselves in research are also important for the rest of society. So the connection is quite close between the film and the types of questions that I want to ask, and I'm asking in my own research. It's basically asking about the human and the realization that our notion of the human will determine for whom it is that we design a future, be that political, economic, design processes. And so asking about the human being, what it means to be human, what a human being is is one of the key questions. And then hermeneutics comes from the ancient god Hermes, the translator, the messenger of the gods who goes back and forth between the gods and the humans to convey messages and to translate between them. And so it's about understanding things, translating things, inquiring about the conditions under which we understand things, to which also belongs, for example, the types of metaphors we use in science. So that's one of the questions that I'm really interested in always, so that's why I'm happy to have an expert here in this kind of field to ask, how far do these metaphors carry if we speak about human beings as information processors? There is something captured in there, but it's also limited, and where are the limits of these metaphors, of these models that we use to explain things in science? And then asking the questions behind these questions is always the point. So what are the limits of our knowledge? With everything we know and we always miss a lot. What is it that we miss? And to look at that. These types of questions are what I'm interested in and what we're exploring with these types of research projects, but also documentary films and more science communication type things.
Thanks. Stefan, you come from a quite different angle. So you do symbolic AI, and I know you at the Center of AI and Machine Learning at TU, you also think quite heavily, which also needs to be said, in initiatives around digital humanism, which is quite strong in Vienna, so from different sides, mostly also from people coming from technology. And I know this might be asked a bit too much for a short opening statement, but can you explain us both what symbolic AI encounters and maybe also how it helps us to prevent the end of humanity?
Yeah, okay. Thanks for the invitation. It's great to be here again. So we had the big ICHKAI conference in 22, just at Messe Wien, but we had here the opening ceremony with colleague Gerhard Widmer, who does this automated piano playing, and this was in that room, so it's always great to be back. Symbolic AI, yeah, this is the branch of AI which has been around for a long time, since the late 50s, where the idea is to implement logical reasoning, to make the computers behave smart by explicitly describing what the computer should do, be it via logical rules or by algorithms, in a way, in the strict way of algorithms, simple algorithms, I think it was called in the movies. And you might think this is something old-fashioned, but it is not. No? I mean, when you use your route planning gadget on your mobile phone to get from A to B the quickest way, then it's symbolic AI, which tells you how to do it. If you update your operating system on your laptop, then the configuration of these packages is done by symbolic AI systems. Also, verification of code is done by symbolic AI systems. And for instance, I don't know if you do any time of optimization, shift schedule plans, timetables for the metros, this is optimized by symbolic AI methods. And maybe just as a last comment in this first round, what is, so to say, the advantage compared to this data-driven contemporary AI thing, deep learning, machine learning, LLMs, is that we know how the things work. So we have transparent systems. We know, we can trace back why the system says no or yes or something, and we can explain the outcome. And I think this is something which is important and which needs to be kind of combined with the things we have today, but I think we maybe come back to this at a later point.
Thanks. Sarah, you work on digital ethics, as we mentioned, but also on value-based engineering. So in fact, the creation and establishment of values is also something that has been mentioned in the movie as one of the biggest achievements of humans and of humanity. But you don't, you work with many different people on this. You don't work only, but you work with philosophers, you work with people from various disciplines, but also with practitioners and with industry. and you also have worked on standards to establish value-based engineering. Can you explain us how values can be standardized?
So, actually, the vision at the end of the film, this attitude of, it's an idea that engineers could consider themselves more as gardeners than as people building something that just works, you know. You can just, if you think about a garden, you can make a garden work, but you can also alternatively create a garden that's beautiful, that's inspiring, that's rich, that's giving people amazing retreat, yeah? So my vision is to build technology and put technology in the service of humanity by making engineers embrace this new attitude. Functionality, you could say, versus beauty. Efficiency and time savings versus more time. And I just give you a simple example. Why are our networks configured such that we are in constant availability? Why are our devices in permanent reception mode? Why do we have real-time email? It's a matter of configuration of networks and servers. So I'm saying, technically, we have a lot of leeways to configure machines in a very different way, but for some reason, we don't do it. And I make innovation teams that I work with, yeah, whether that's AI teams or normal information systems teams and innovation startups, I make them think and try to bring them into the groove of thinking about the technological capability in a different way. And this is what value-based engineering is. This is what we standardized in this ISO 7000 standard. And this is also what the city of Vienna now embraced in its Digital Horizon strategy that they published last week for 2030, where the city of Vienna wants to go with us into this journey. And we are working now with the kindergarten starting this winter to think with parents and with lots of people about how we can build technology to serve humans and not to make something more efficient. Also, anybody got more efficient through machines? No. So let's try to build the future differently, and this is what I'm working on.
Great. That brings me back to my starting simplifying question. What can we do better? So usually I take the role in our department as the humble computer scientist and coming from an engineering background, right? So we have a lot of discussions along these lines. In fact, it would be cool to hear from all of you maybe also some examples where and how technology and developers and of information technology can actually contribute to, if we're still in the driver's seat, as we hope, to protect humanity and humanism.
I think in a very fundamental level, and I'll just speak very generally and then let the experts speak more concretely on how that could be done technologically. But I think one of the things that fascinates me is that we tend to ask the wrong questions or not ask the right questions, and then just get into a habit. And that's why I think the idea of an attitude change is very on spot, of just solving problems because we can solve them. There's this drive, which is also a human sort of drive to make things work, to solve problems. But then at times we optimize or solve the wrong problems. And I had a realization when I was on vacation with my kids. I have 3 kids now. I had 2 small daughters. We were at the beach in Italy, and we wanted to build a sandcastle together. And there was a couple of friends also with their kids, and we said, this is a cool afternoon activity with the kids, so we'll build a sandcastle. And it turns out that as we began to build it, ambition got to us that we said we wanted to build a real big sandcastle, one that will still stand here tomorrow for people to see. And what turns out to be the case is that little kids at the age of 1 and 3 years old are not very helpful in building a great sandcastle. They're rather something to the contrary, they're hindering the process. So to optimize the process of sandcastle building of the grand sort, you should sort of factor them out of the process best and let the grown-ups do it. And in the end, you'll have a great sandcastle, but you'll have optimized the wrong thing, because the idea of the activity was playing with kids, having time with family, was a relationship. It was a human goal that we supplanted with an optimization of something that's literally worthless, because it was gone after a couple of hours through the wave. So the question is, what types of things do we optimize for, or do we work for? And that's something we don't often do, although it's so critical. So what we do is we do stuff. At times we step back and think, could I do this more efficiently? Could I optimize? Which is what the economy is good at. And then we perhaps optimize, but we seldom ask, what do I actually want with my life? What are my priorities? What are my values? And even less so, and that's where sort of the humanities are interesting, do we step back one step even further and ask, what's actually worth wanting? What is sort of ultimately the kind of vision that's even worth working towards? And then, do I actually want this? And then do I optimize towards this kind of goal? And that, for me, was a very practical thing, but the realization is just, we tend to be in these dynamics of just optimizing, but we should ask the question, what do we want, and what's worth wanting more than we do currently? And we should speak about this. That's what the idea of this film is. Make a platform where people can join into a conversation about what we actually want, and then do the technology that helps us to get there and not somewhere else.
Sarah, what should we do to build the systems that support us in this goal?
Yeah, so what we do with the innovation teams is we make them think about the values that are worth striving for. And then we define system requirements, and we define the architecture of the technology according to that value goal. And the solutions, they look completely differently. So we've seen it in many case studies that in the end, the technology simply looks different than if you just run down the sandcastle building that you try to make things more efficient. We make things beautiful. Or we see, for instance, value harms or also value deficiencies. So, for example, when we work now for the AI system of the National Employment Service here in Austria, we look at the dialogues. And we look at what value is created through the dialogues, and where are things that don't work, where perhaps the machine is not showing enough politeness towards the user. We don't look into bias, because 100,000 people talk about AI bias. No, we look about various facets of coherence, respect, dignity in those dialogues. Yeah.
Stefan, this gives me the chance to do some shameless self-advertisement. We have actually a joint project on what's called bilateral AI, which is a big Austrian research project about making a more broad or more robust AI. So it tries to bring together people from different strands of technology and AI to build such robust technology. So how can these technologies, how will this AI look like, and how can it help us in this pursuit of protecting humanism?
I first want to maybe add a little bit to what has been said on the stage, because I think that's really very important, and also connects a little bit to this excellence cluster we have. And this is this problem of the attitude. When we were trained as computer scientists, Axel, so we learned we are the problem solvers. We were not aware that we will create problems, and I even remember...
Build better sandcastles.
Yeah, but I even remember, Axel, when we were PhD students at the UV, that we said, we're doing such crazy things, they will never do any harm. So we can do what we want. But of course we learn, and now we know that we are responsible, and we have to train also our next generation computer scientists and AI researchers in a different way, and this will also be part of this excellence cluster. But as you have mentioned, the main idea is to bring together symbolic AI, which I briefly explained before, and this machine learning data-driven concepts, because, I mean, in the end, AI will not go away. Now we will have to live with these systems. We have to shape them. I fully agree with that. But we need to make them more robust. We need to also understand. I mean, if I have systems which make some decisions, and we have such systems already, and there will be autonomous vehicles and so on and so forth, at some point they need to explain why they do something. Now, of course, you can mimic explanations, but in the end, what you need is that at some point from the data, you need an abstract model of the world, and where we can talk about this and negotiate whether this is the case or not the case, and so on and so forth. So this is in a nutshell the idea of this FWF Excellence Cluster with different universities around. But I also would like to, I'm not sure, do we have a third round of questions?
I'm sure we will have some questions from the audience.
Because I think when talking about being at the driving seat or behind the steering wheel, what we have to also be careful is, I mean, what are the problems around the corner? I mean, this has a long-term perspective, and transhumanism is very important also to reveal what are the motivations behind these discussions. But with AI systems as we have them today, there are also problems we have to face. And there are serious problems we have to face. And I just pick one, do not be too long. And this has to do with this personalization of everything. I mean, if you enter a web shop, it looks completely different than when I enter the web shop. We all know this. If you have YouTube, you have different suggestions than I have. Why? Because your data is used to recommend something which is the system thinks keeps you on the platform. Okay, smart enough. But what we will have around the corner is that AI systems will also, I mean, they are now doing well in languages, right? They can tune a text maybe towards my attitude. So if I read a newspaper, maybe in the next years, if you read the same article or a comment by our favorite journalist, you maybe will read a different one than I do. Because, I don't know, whatever the system tries. And this is not far away, because now we already have this automatically generated, easy-to-read text, which is fine, which is a good example. But what we in the end lose is common ground and the public sphere, and I think this is really the threat at the moment, where we have to take care. It's not that we will have no work in the next 10 years. I think in the long term maybe, but now we have problems which we really have to be very careful, and we need to raise awareness to the politicians, to the public, that at some point we should really say, do we really need this, and do we want this?
Sarah.
I think this is a very good example to ask, don't we need to take a step back in the sense of, does it make sense to personalize? Should we personalize? I would even say one further step back. Can we actually say, yes, we have to accept AI is here and here to stay? Because at least the kind of AI that now everybody talks about, these large language models and so on, consume 20 times more energy than what we used to have. 20 times more energy. It means that all the big software companies now, Microsoft and so on, they're running around trying to build little atomic energy centers because they don't simply have enough energy to go down this road. And you know what? Even before starting in this kind of AI age, 40% of an individual CO2 budget these last years was consumed, 40%, by IT services. 20% is going to transport, flying and things like that. 20% is going to eating too much meat. 40% pre-AI is going to IT, Netflix, TikTok, email, streaming, voice recognition. So can we actually say, and this is not a critique, this is a general question, can we actually afford as humanity to say, AI is here to stay, okay, software eats the world? Are we eating the world for TikToks? Doesn't make any sense. Just because I can speak into this machine, we were literally eating, IT is eating the world. So we have to step, as even if I love to say, oh, let's just configure things, let's do value-based engineering with IT, at this moment in time, I would even say, wow, we really have to think about something completely new. We have to think about how can we live in an IT-enabled world where 80% is analog and 20% is digital, and not the other way around. This is crazy, I know, but for one thing, I want to say that we have to think really big. We have to ask really big questions in order to handle this challenge.
Good point. If I would now jump out of my moderator role, I would think about how to optimize energy consumption. That's what you should learn as students for IT and getting back. But I'm sure that from the audience, there's much more questions or more interesting questions than this one now. I see a hand in the back. We have someone with a microphone running out. So here in the one but last row, I think, if you could maybe...
Thank you very much for this wonderful film and the very positive message that the film shows. However, AI is used massively to develop technology that can destroy cities and kill people more efficiently, dehumanizing the victims and the perpetrators, and dehumanizing us because we are losing these values. Can we not say that in that sense, actually, it's the end of humanity?
Maybe replique also to Sarah and to this comment. I think we really have to be careful to not get into this, and now I forgot the English word, I think it's Luddites, so the Maschinenstürmerinnen. Luddites, yeah, thanks. Yeah, so say, okay, this is all bad and we need to destroy it. I mean, just think about other applications we have, and now, I'm not the AI enthusiast, as you maybe have already recognized, but don't forget about the applications in medicine. I think we all are happy to get better treatment because of data. If you have a rare disease, I think there are very big chances. So I think we really should think about and how can we make use of these technologies in a way that and now I use a word which also I somehow missed in the movies, to bring society forward. I think it's not only about the individuals, because then we have this problem of personalization around the corner. But what does really, how can society benefit from the techniques? And I think progress, also in terms of civilization, was always made in a sense where society makes use of the techniques which have been developed.
There's an old philosophical saying that I always like to quote, is corruptio optima, oh, I forgot it. The point is, the worst is always the corruption of the best. Corruptio optimi pessima, sorry, now, yeah, sorry. The worst is always the corruption of the best. And I think the point still stands is all the good stuff you have can be corrupted. And it's fairly easy to imagine how ChatGPT can be used by scammers, and it proved more difficult to show how it can help constructively sort of improve our work life. In some areas, yes, in others, no. So it is always a question, and I think this is what makes it interesting in our sense and the humanities is the goal was, or the hope was, we have human problems, we'll solve them with technology. And now we have technology that obviously reproduces and enhances our human problems. And so the point is, the further we develop technologies, it's just, I think, also the time to say, we need to look at ourselves about our human problems and about different solutions to our human problems that we try to circumnavigate with technological fixes. And that just doesn't work. It's easy for human beings to abuse advanced technologies, and that's one of the factors that we need to factor in if we develop it and if we just release it out into the world, which is what's being done. So it is always a two-edged sword.
I think it's dangerous to use this word Luddite too quickly.
Yeah.
And I don't want to criticize you as my neighbor here on this podium, but I've seen it a lot of times that it's so easy to say, somebody standing up, and we see these incredible weapons that are being built with the help of AI these days. Yeah. And I think every sober computer scientist, the kind of engineer that I know, they read about those technologies and they're shocked to what ends their innovations are actually being put. And then there is somebody from the audience here and standing up and saying, yeah, but isn't this crazy? Isn't that putting a power into our military systems that shouldn't be there? And it's not a critique of yours, it's a general way of the tech community reacting and saying, oh, this is a Luddite. No, you're not a Luddite. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Humanity has developed an incredibly powerful technology ability, and we don't know how to handle it well. And we have never lived in more dangerous times due to that capability. And I wish we were more in the driver's seat, because my impression is that whilst many people have very good intentions, and engineers for sure, the complexity of this world has made that unfortunately too much of that brutal technology is out there.
And historically, the Luddites weren't against machines per se, they were against the factory system and its social impact. So there's good, so they're better than they're made to be.
No, but I mean, there is this, when I use the word Luddite in this context, what I want to trigger here is of course not that we should be uncritical and so, but what happened is that there was a Luddites movement, and on the other hand there was the trade unions movement, with the idea that we have to get control over the production system, and now we should think, shall we take back control over our data, for instance? And that's why I use this word as a trigger point to think about, and thanks, it was in the movie, that this is the economic system behind things we have to really question, and the power it has.
So we have a question in the back. We had actually several hands up. I'll try to, I think the first I saw rising there, is the microphone already there? Yeah, great.
So, hello. It is wonderful. So thank you for all your work that you have done. I am impressed. Yeah. I can tell you that I'm working on the technology for 20 years. I hope you don't ask me to prove myself that I'm not a robot. So I am not yet. Because basically, and I have taken so much notes today, you don't believe, and I use technology again to take notes. So the main thing that I have been also questioning myself in these 20 years of experience in technology, working for HP, Microsoft, now with the Japanese technology company. And I always question myself, are we in our purpose of doing good, or are we, maybe risking to go aside? And this is an open question. To me, on all the messages that I heard from this honored panel is maybe I heard about technology. Are we building the right technology? Are we making technology in serve of human? Are we in a driving seat? To me, all these bring human in a second row. Our focus is on technology. So is it maybe that we need to change the focus? That might bring the every one of us focused on the human. I'm a parent of 3 kids. 2 are already 11 and 12 years old. And my biggest challenge, it has not been, and it is not today, to teach them technology. I know it's difficult, it's programming, you have to do that. That is the future. That is what Zuckerberg is saying. But basically, I have been inspiring all the talents. I have spoken to many people, students, and I have inspired them to go after technology. But the panel here, I would love to see whether we would maybe need to change the focus and make it to people. So the last thing is, when I teach my kids about the good and the valuable thing, is the power of diversity. Yeah? Turn on your left and your right, you are blessed of having a good and a bad friend at the class. Because the good and the bad is actually what keeps us connected as humans. This is, if you look at this prospect, then you will see the world different, and we will see, you know, that we have so much technology in our hands today that we can help maybe stop the war. You know, why we don't ask technology today how we can stop the war? It's actually on the human power to stop it. So I close it here.
The question was, how shall we change the focus?
How we change the focus? Can we bring it back to human? Thanks.
Thanks.
It's hard. It's very difficult because the economy, the start-up calculations, the business models and the scale they are looking for, the return on investment, the dynamics in the financial markets, the way processes are organized, innovation processes are organized in companies, everything is speaking against change. So it's not easy.
Maybe I mean, I'm from the University of Technology, so I maybe not the best person to answer this. But I want to also share some hope I have. Yeah? I mean, if you remember when social media came up, no? There was huge optimism, global village, people will be connected, you find a friend who has the same super exotic hobby than you have on the other side of the world, and everything is great. No? But then I mean, I don't need to tell the story what happened with social media, but with the AI business, no? With all the problems we have, I think that the politics and also the policymakers are not as naive anymore. They try to come up with regulations, be they good or bad. I mean, it's not what I'm saying. But I think that the awareness is now much better than it has been 15 years ago when we did farming on Facebook or something like that.
I'm good. Okay. So, yeah, I think we maybe have time. We were a bit advanced in time, admittedly, with the original plan of the time of the panel. But I would like to give maybe a chance for one or two more questions from the audience. Yeah? So one here. Are you? Yeah? Okay. And afterwards, we will have the chance to discuss further. Also, I hope with the panelists, we still have some refreshments in the back end.
So, thanks for the panel, and the movie was amazing. A bit background about myself. I'm in the software industry, and I'm originally from Iran. Coming from the ethic decisions, I remember there was a social network produced by the Islamic regime in Iran. I knew that they're gonna censor all of the others. Platform to do more tracing on people, and I just didn't accept it because it was against the values I had in mind. So I think every one of us can make tiny decisions, but the question I have is that when there is no regulations, as history showed, big, basically manufacturers or the companies try to take advantage of everything, including AI and everything. And I think how we can make a connection between societies like this, that people actually care about it in a way that it's ethic and is good for humanity, and prevent, or at least try to make it more difficult for the both politicians and the companies to take advantage of it. Like basically, when you think about the big players right now, the only thing that they have in mind about AI is that how can I affect it in my side? And it's not for benefit of anybody. How we can take this, how is it possible that people like you, any of you, because at least there is an argument that is not for your own company benefit, but you're fighting for people, whatever stand you have. And it's not the case for many, many of these politicians / companies. How we can make this happen? Thank you.
I always have something. I think you said something very, very important, that everybody can make tiny decisions, right? I think that's good. Who is still on X? Okay, think about it, no?
Maybe let's wrap it up with a short closing statement. So we're a university. What skills do we have to teach our students?
You're looking at me smiling, huh? I think what's really missing here is humanities. Mm? It's it's so sad, yeah. Yes, there is so much because I must say, I studied business. I studied management economics, and then I learned myself computer science and became PhD and so on in information systems. And I didn't know anything about the world. Literally, I didn't know anything. And then, like 15 years ago or so, I suddenly discovered the humanities, philosophy, theology, psychology, history, and it changed the way I approach economics, it changes the way I approach technology, and it changes the way I think and I act in the world. And I think it's so sad that a university like this one is like functionally separated, putting people into this economic box, or like a TU, they are in this technical box, and they only know that one black box in which they receive their data for their education. And I think this is completely outdated. I think it's terrible. And I would love to see more humanities, people flourishing and bringing things together.
So we're a bit in a...
That's what I think.
We're a bit in a skewed box here, right? But with a more straight box, maybe. So
I fully agree. But Axel, you mentioned the term digital humanism at the very beginning, and one has to say that, for instance, Vienna is doing quite a lot in this direction and is funding now a doctoral school on digital humanism, which has exactly the goal to bring people from these different disciplines together already on the PhD level, and so that they exchange and that they learn from each other, because I think that's essential. Essential. Computer science has become an interdisciplinary discipline, although we start to get aware, but it is indispensable to join forces to come up with solutions. And things are starting already. One has to mention this.
I mean, Sarah already made the pitch for the humanities, so I just signed that. But also, I think I would add, events like this and activities like this of universities are really important. Confronting what we do in an academic sphere with the real world, with society, with societal questions, and then involving stakeholders and people into these conversations, I think does something of an orientation shift towards what we really want and what matters and what we want to create as humans and the future that we're aspiring to. And so I think keeping up conversation, especially in a time where digitally but also politically and culturally, critical conversation, being able to converse with somebody even if you don't share the other one's opinion, is something that we're beginning to lose, but it's actually at the core of it's actually the force that could bring about change, I think, even in these questions that we're debating. And that's also endangered, paradoxically, not least, through social media and digital technology. So it's a sort of a circle problem that will need to go the other way around, I think. And this is a good example of how it could be started, at least.
Right. I think this actually brings us back to what we heard in the very beginning, and maybe wraps up this round quite nicely. I understood it as a call for engaging and having dialogues. as we heard in the start, as basically learning to code and ask critical questions. And also innovate still, right? So that's what we're here for. I guess we'll have ample room afterwards still to discuss, also with the panelists here. Thanks everybody for joining us here in this discussion and for watching this movie. There will be some refreshments afterwards and more time to talk and have further questions. I'm sure there will be more critical and controversial discussions. Thanks a lot for joining us.